Because there was no money to buy a house for my uncle, my grandmother forced my parents to divorce. My father didn't want to, so my grandmother gave him an idea. You spent 100,000 in betrothal gifts to marry her. If you divorce her and she wants to remarry, let her bring 200,000 in dowry. My mother happily went with my father to get the divorce certificate. No one knew except me that soon after the divorce, my mom would become a rich woman because of a lottery ticket to buy a house in the county town for my uncle. Our family was in a huge uproar. My grandmother was convinced that our family had spare money and demanded that my dad, as the eldest son, pay the down payment for my uncle's house. My dad was a mama's boy who treated my grandmother's words as sacred commands. Over the years, the family's money had long been taken by my grandmother through various means. She was well aware of our family's situation. She just wanted to use this method to pressure my maternal grandmother's family into paying the money on my mother's behalf. My maternal grandmother's family had already exhausted their savings for my uncle's wedding, and my mother's dowry had also been used to fill the gap. Seeing my uncle's new house, my grandmother couldn't bear it and forced my father to divorce my mother. My dad was unwilling, so my grandmother gave him an idea. We spent 100,000 in betrothal gifts to marry her. If you divorce her and her family wants her to remarry, they'll have to pay 200,000 in dowry. My dad's hesitant attitude hurt my mom's feelings. On her way back to her parents' house to cry, she picked up a lottery ticket, checked it, and found out it was the jackpot winner. She was very happy and told my dad as soon as she got home, "Lao Zhao, with this money, your brother can buy a house, and our family's life will improve." My dad happily shared the news with Grandma, thinking that without the need for a divorce, she would finally calm down. Unexpectedly, Grandma brought along my uncle and aunt, forcing my mom to hand over the lottery ticket. When my mom refused, the three of them ganged up and nearly beat her to death. Grandma even took a knife and chopped off my mom's hand that was holding the lottery ticket. "Once you've entered my Zhao family's door, you still think about keeping private savings, I'll kill you, you disobedient wretch." My mother, covered in wounds, was thrown by them into a neglected, foul-smelling ditch. At a young age, I was also sold by my grandmother to the countryside to become a child bride for a fool. My grandmother told everyone I was a bastard, afraid of being beaten. My mother took me to seek refuge with my biological father. The grandmother's family believed it and, fearing being pointed at, declared that they had already severed ties with my mother. My mother died from excessive blood loss, and her body was devoured by wild dogs. I was tortured to death by the fool's family, not even leaving a whole corpse. Grandma, uncle, and auntie, with that bonus, lived a prosperous life. My father also remarried. No one ever mentioned my mother or me again. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my grandmother asked my parents to pay for my uncle's house. "Don't hit me, don't hit me." I woke up from a nightmare, still shaken, and saw my mother staring blankly at her own hands, lost in thought. At that moment, I knew she had been reborn, just like me. Before I could say anything, our door was pounded with great force. "Open the door. Let me in, quickly. It's Grandma." My mother looked up, glaring at the door, her eyes filled with hatred, but soon, she reverted to the submissive demeanor of her previous life, stood up, and opened the door. Smack. "Oh, you shameless thing, you actually dare to hide." I was a few steps too slow, and when I came out, I only saw Grandma clutching her hand, grimacing and crying out in pain, while a fleeting smile crossed my mother's face. Yes, in my previous life, my mother was also a bit slow to open the door, and as soon as Grandma came in, she slapped her. It seems my mother remembers these details too, which is why she was able to dodge in time and make Grandma suffer a setback. Jiabao's wife is pregnant, and her in-laws want them to buy a house in the county town. As the eldest brother and sister-in-law, "You'll cover the down payment, I'll figure out the rest later." Grandma said the exact same words as in her previous life. My mother did the same, claiming that the family had no money. Grandma pretended not to hear. Wearing her old cloth shoes caked with mud, she wandered through each room, looking for anything valuable she could take home. Seeing that nothing had changed, she scowled and yelled at my mother, "You're nothing but a jinx. If you're out of money, why don't you go borrow some? Married into our family, all you've produced is this worthless thing, not even a son. What use are you?" My dad's salary card was held by my grandmother, and our family of three relied entirely on my mom for food, clothing, and expenses. This also resulted in me, already 10 years old, being as thin and small as a 7 or 8-year-old child. "Mom, you're here." My dad came back. He was well known far and wide as a filial son, always deferring to his mother in everything, fearing that she might be unhappy. Upon learning my grandmother's intentions, My father looked troubled but firmly said he would find a way. With memories from my past life, I looked at the mother and son before me, feeling nothing but hatred, but I couldn't think of a way to get back at them right now. I also didn't know what my mother was planning, so I could only stand quietly by, afraid of disrupting her scheme. Grandma said she would take Uncle and the others to look at the house, giving Dad 3 days to raise the money. At dinner that evening, Dad was so worried he couldn't eat, but I, having been terrified of hunger in my previous life, ate so much I couldn't even lift my head. Seeing that Mom wasn't sighing and moaning as usual, Dad tentatively asked, Maying, do you have any way to raise the money? My mother's expression remained unchanged as she calmly said, the betrothal gifts for our wedding are with my mother, go and tell her it's urgent, see what she says. My grandmother's temperament is no better than my paternal grandmother's. My father can tolerate his own mother, but he doesn't want to tolerate his mother-in-law. He smiled ingratiatingly at my mother. It's been a long time since you went back. Tomorrow, I'll go with you to visit, you can talk to them. My mother didn't say anything, which in my father's eyes, meant she agreed. That night, as I lay in bed, a mix of emotions swirled within me, and I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. When my mother pushed the door open, I jolted up, startling her. She sat down on the edge of the bed, her eyes glistening with tears as she quietly apologized to me. Mom, what are you planning to do? I didn't intend to hide the fact that I had also been reborn. Just like her. After hearing this, she was stunned for a moment, then pulled me into her arms, suppressing her sobs as she said, Wait, I won't let any of them get away. In my previous life, it was my grandmother's idea to ask my grandmother for money, but my father felt ashamed, and my mother didn't want to go. This time, my mother brought up her family on her own initiative, and I don't know what she plans to do. My grandmother was quite happy to see my mother after a long time, but my mother didn't waste any words and directly asked for money. Where did the money come from? I didn't even ask you for money when your brother got married, and now you're actually asking me for money instead. It's not that Grandma didn't love my mother, but in front of my little uncle, my mother was nothing. I could see the disappointment in my mother's eyes, but soon, she returned to her previous expression. My mother-in-law needs money, and we don't have any. Zhao Su said you must have some. As soon as my dad arrived, he hid to the side, not knowing what my mom would say. In his mind, he believed my mom would definitely take his side, so when my grandmother picked up a broom and hit him, he thought she was just unwilling to give him money. My grandmother didn't make a sound while hitting him. My dad dodged around, but he didn't understand why he was being beaten. When my uncle entered, my father probably felt his pride was hurt, grabbed the broom, and with a forceful pull, took it into his own hands. My grandmother lost her balance and stumbled to the ground. My mother made a symbolic move to help, but my uncle had already rushed forward and punched my father. You won't let my sister return to her parents' home, and as soon as she does, you bully my mother. You think I'll give you face? My dad is only a quiet, reserved person in front of my grandmother. Outside, he absolutely won't let himself suffer any losses. He and my uncle, one throwing a punch and the other kicking, fought fiercely with each other. My grandmother cheered on my younger uncle from the side, while my mother pretended to wipe away tears. I pretended to be scared and hid in the corner, realizing something. It turns out my mother didn't even intend to spare my grandmother's family, because my mother supports the family. My father usually treats her very well. He came home covered in injuries, angry and in pain, but didn't know who to vent his anger on. When Grandma brought my uncle over, my mom was applying medicine to my dad. Grandma acted as if she hadn't seen anything and immediately asked how much money had been raised. My mom applied the medicine a bit too hard, and my dad winced, saying, Mom, don't worry, I'll think of something. My uncle looked unhappy, munching on a cucumber he had fished out of the fridge. Mom, I told you earlier, brother won't be willing to give me money. He's living his own life just fine, and he's definitely cursing us in his heart for being no good. My dad got so anxious that he stood up from the sofa and expressed his loyalty to Grandma. Although Grandma knew my dad's temperament, she was still provoked by Uncle's words and scolded the three of us, my parents and me, mercilessly. At that moment, my mom spoke up. My mom has money, but she used it to buy a house for my brother, and the payment was just made recently. Upon hearing this, Grandma pointed at my mom and scolded her harshly. Shameless wretch, you have money and don't think to give it to me, but instead just watch your mother spend it. You good for nothing, I'll beat you to death. That's just how Grandma is, unreasonable, because she believes she is always right. She doesn't care where the money came from. Since my mom married into the Zhao family, and since my mom brought it up herself, if the money doesn't end up in her hands, My mom deserves to be beaten. My father stepped in front of my mother, who was crying and shouting, as she watched my father get slapped several times by my grandmother. Jiabao, come, we have the money for your house, let's go get it back. Having vented her anger, my grandmother called for my uncle to leave. She had initially wanted to call my father along, but seeing him crouch on the ground with his face covered, spit at my dad. Useless thing, do I have to handle such a small matter myself? After my grandmother passed away, my mother showed signs of discomfort. Lying in bed silently crying, my dad told me to prepare dinner, but my mom called me over, hugged me, and wouldn't let me move. No choice, my dad had to do it himself. When he called my mom to eat, he whispered, "Meiying, what if mom really breaks ties with your family?" My mom had been crying all along, but her tone was very calm. "Zhao Su, when we got married, you said you would give me a good life, but after all these years of marriage, whenever I suffer grievances, you only tell me to endure it afterward. How long do I have to endure, until your mother drives me to death?" Upon hearing this, my father's voice, filled with guilt, carried a sob. "Meiying, I'm sorry, my mother is getting old, and I can't just ignore her. I'll work hard to earn money and try to make your life easier." My mother asked him what they would do if her maternal family refused to acknowledge her. My father avoided the main issue, only saying that he would be there for her in the future. My mother didn't say anything more. After dinner, there was a knock at our door. It was my grandmother's neighbor. "Meiying, why can't I reach you on the phone? Your mother-in-law and your mom got into a fight, and both of them ended up in the hospital." My mother's tears, which she had just managed to stop, suddenly streamed down again. My father, in a hurry to leave, had to rein in his impatience when he saw my mother like this. "Meiying, hurry up and get ready, let's go to the hospital to see how mom is doing." My father didn't want to take me, but my mother still held my hand as she left. When my dad stopped the car, my mom whispered softly, "Nyo, endure a little longer, we'll be free soon." Grandma and Granny were placed in different wards. The doctor said that they were originally together, but the two kept arguing and cursing, so to avoid affecting other patients, they had to be separated. My uncle and my mom's brother also had bruises all over their faces. Both were standing in front of policemen, who seemed to be taking their statements, or perhaps preventing them from fighting. Again, my dad wanted my mom to take me to see my grandma, but my mom directly pulled me into my maternal grandmother's hospital room. "Mom, how did you get hurt so badly?" As soon as my mom saw my maternal grandmother, she started crying. Looking at my grandmother's swollen face and her sparse hair, for some reason, I felt a little like laughing. My maternal grandmother's voice was hoarse as she glared angrily at my mom and said, "Tell me, what madness has your mother-in-law, that old bitch, gone into? Why did she suddenly come to me demanding money?" My mother trembled, hesitating as she spoke. "My mother-in-law came to the house today asking how much money we've managed to raise. I told her we don't have any, that all our money went toward buying my brother's house." Who knew she would suddenly? The words themselves weren't wrong, but the problem was that my grandmother didn't know what kind of person my mother-in-law was. My mother had gone out to work and earn money at a very young age to support the family. After getting married, she always shared only the good news with my grandmother, never the troubles. Grandma only knew that my paternal grandmother was difficult to get along with, but she didn't know that she could be so shameless, daring to covet my money. "Meiying, don't you worry about this, I'll deal with this old woman myself." My mother murmured in agreement. Just as my father knocked and entered the room, he wanted to ask my mother to go take care of my grandmother, but seeing my maternal grandmother's expression, he couldn't bring himself to say it. Grandma saw through his intentions at a glance. "Zhao Su, my daughter married you and hasn't had a single good day. What kind of person your mother is, I don't need to say more. Today, it was your mother who came looking for trouble. If you don't want the police to take her away, drop the idea of having Meiying take care of her." Grandma was unreasonable, but she was somewhat afraid of the police. Because of the mutual assault, the two families settled privately, each paying their own medical expenses. I accompanied my mother to the hospital to take care of my grandmother. Grandma is in another ward, and her scolding can be heard from far away. Other patients' family members couldn't stand it and went to argue with her, but no one could match her sharp tongue. The hospital received 10 complaints in one day. There's no other way. As long as Grandma is not in any life-threatening condition, we should let her be discharged from the hospital and go home to recuperate. This also aligns with Grandma's frugal nature. Just before being discharged, she walked to the door of my maternal grandmother's hospital room and spent a long time cursing at my maternal grandmother and my mother. In the end, she was escorted away by the hospital security. The day after Grandma was discharged from the hospital, my maternal grandmother was also ready to go home, maying, "Your mother-in-law is not an easy person to deal with, we can't just sit back and do nothing. I need to go back and figure something out." My mom didn't tell my dad about my maternal grandmother being discharged from the hospital. When we got home, we could hear Grandma yelling at the door, "What kind of daughter-in-law is she? She didn't even show up when I was hospitalized. Just wait until she comes back, I'll beat her to death." My dad's voice was too low to hear what he was saying. I looked up at my mom, expecting her to be a bit upset. To my surprise, she had no expression on her face. "You divorce her. I spent 100,000 in betrothal gifts for your marriage, and if you divorce her, she'll have to bring 200,000 in dowry if she wants to remarry." My dad's voice grew louder, and I could roughly hear him asking what if my mom didn't want to remarry him. Grandma didn't seem to care. Her mother isn't any better, and she's got that burden with her. She can't go back to her parents' house. So where else can she go? Wait until her mother comes up with 200,000 to pay for your brother's down payment, then let her come back. It's just a matter of changing the certificate. You don't need to worry. At that moment, my mom unlocked the door with her key. Seeing my mother, my father quickly stood up, maying. Grandma rolled her eyes. "It's just as well you're back. Saves me saying it a second time. All these years and you can't even produce a son. Now you're still siding with your family. If that's the case, our family can't keep you. Get a divorce with Xiao Su right away. I'll find him a new wife." My mother didn't say a word, just kept staring at my father. Under the dual pressure from my grandmother and mother, my father crouched down with his hands over his head, sobbing loudly. But it didn't mean he wouldn't divorce my mom. Back then, my parents were considered to have married for love. My grandmother was impressed that my maternal grandmother's family had an orchard with good profits. She thought that after becoming in-laws, they could share some of the profits, so she was quick to pay the bride price. But the year after my parents got married, my maternal grandmother's orchard was poorly managed by my youngest uncle and was sold at a low price to someone else. My paternal grandmother didn't get any benefit out of it and would come to our house every day to pick a fight, just trying to get my mother to return the betrothal gifts to maintain family harmony. My father handed his salary card over to my grandmother, and that was the end of it. Unlike in my previous life, when my mother heard my grandmother telling them to divorce, she didn't cry or make a fuss. I just realized that these past few days, I haven't seen her shed any more tears. "Let's go, let's get the certificate. I don't want anything, just let Nyo stay with me." My mother quickly found the documents, while my father was surprised, but in front of my grandmother, he didn't dare say a word. Grandma wouldn't leave. She insisted on seeing my parents' divorce certificate before she could rest assured. Afraid that I would be mistreated at home, my mother knocked on the neighbor's door and asked me to stay there for a while. An hour later, my parents returned with their divorce certificate, and my grandmother watched my mother pack her things. She allowed my mother to take nothing but our clothes. As my mother led me to leave, my father chased after us, maying, "I will visit you, and when Mom is no longer around, I will marry you back." My mother and I moved into a small inn. The next day was the day she had found the lottery ticket in her previous life. Many things had changed in this life, and I was afraid that due to these changes, the lottery ticket might not appear again. Seeing my distress, my mother remained calm. "Have a good sleep. What's meant to happen will happen. Even without this lottery ticket, I would find other ways to make sure they don't get off easy. Yeah, even though I know my mom won't get back together with my dad, but aside from a few injuries, those responsible haven't faced anything that truly makes them suffer. I can't accept it, let alone my mom." Early the next morning, my mother left the house, instructing me to stay indoors and not go anywhere. I waited all day. Apart from someone knocking on the door to deliver my meals, I had no news of my mother. I didn't know if she had found the lottery ticket, nor did I know where she had gone. When it was dark, my mother knocked on the door. She was carrying big and small bags, her face beaming with joy. Nyo, just wait a few more days. Once everything is settled, Mom will take you away." I only knew that my mother had found that lottery ticket again. I didn't know anything else. I have no idea where she went or what she was busy with all day. In the middle of the night, while I was half asleep, I seemed to hear my mom go out again. When I woke up and asked her, she just smiled and told me to hurry up and get ready. After breakfast, my mom took me to the milk tea shop across from the prize redemption center. This milk tea shop is very popular, with limited seating, and customers are constantly coming and going, all taking their orders to go. My mom and I sat at a spot where we could see outside. If you didn't look closely, no one would notice us. Around noon, Grandma and Uncle appeared outside the prize redemption center. Within a couple of minutes, Grandma and Uncle also arrived. I was puzzled and looked at my mom, but she said nothing, only telling me to wait and watch the show. Within 2 minutes of my grandmother entering the prize redemption center, an argument broke out on the opposite side. This area is a pedestrian street, and today being a weekend, there were many pedestrians on the street. Hearing the commotion, many stopped to watch the spectacle, for people fought their way from inside to outside. Grandma and Granny have loud voices, and even indoors, we can hear them clearly. "You old fool. The winning lottery ticket is mine, hand it over right now, or I'll beat you to death." Grandma pressed down on Granny, trying to snatch the lottery ticket she was holding. Granny wasn't about to back down, her free hand grabbed hold of Grandma's hair. "This is my lottery ticket. Who gave you the nerve to fight me for it?" Uncle's younger brother was a bit stronger than Uncle's younger sibling, and because of the money, both of them went all out, just as they were in the heat of the fight. Aunt's younger sibling appeared, running quickly. "Mom, husband, why are you still fighting? Let go quickly." She was pregnant, one hand on her belly, the other trying to separate her grandmother and grandmother. The two old women rolled on the ground, and it was unclear who exerted force, causing her aunt-in-law to lose balance and fall. Soon after, blood flowed from her lower body. When she cried out, "My child," the police finally arrived. Several people were taken away, and my aunt was sent to the hospital. "Let's go, we'll find another place to watch the excitement." There was a small restaurant across from the police station, and we arrived just after the police car. As soon as my grandmother and great-grandmother saw each other, they started yelling at each other right in front of the police. Neither of them would back down, and in the heat of the argument, they even attacked the police just to get at each other. After seeing my dad enter the police station, sweating profusely, my mom paid the bill and took me away. "Mom, what did you do?" I really couldn't figure out what today's whole scene was about. My mother held my hand as she explained while walking towards the small inn. In her previous life, she lost her life over a lottery ticket. After returning, she had already bought the winning lottery ticket when no one was looking, but she didn't just buy one copy. She went out yesterday and indeed found a lottery ticket in the same spot, but unlike her previous life, she didn't pick it up and leave. Instead, she turned it into the police station, asking them to find the owner. Although it's just a small piece of paper, the owner might not even notice it's missing, but if he finds out he missed out on millions, he'd be filled with regret. I wouldn't feel at ease taking that money. Perhaps the tragic death of her previous life taught her that some things not meant for her would bring retribution if taken, so this time, she decided to return it to its rightful owner. She used her winning ticket to exchange for money in the neighboring city. That's why she spent the whole day on this. In the middle of the night, she went out and placed 2 different lottery tickets at the doorsteps of her grandmother's and great-grandmother's houses. Each ticket had numbers that were slightly different from the first prize. This way, the winnings would vary, with some getting more and others less, if they met, and when Grandma saw that great-grandma had won more than she did, given Grandma's greedy nature, it would definitely cause trouble. This is exactly the outcome my mother wanted to see. She knows my grandmother well, and she knows my maternal grandmother even better. She knew that neither of them would ever admit that the lottery ticket was found right outside their door, and naturally, that means my mother wouldn't be dragged into it either. I thought my mom would do something extreme like my grandmother and the others did in the previous life, taking their lives. I've thought about it for a long time. Heaven allowed us, mother and daughter, to come back to change our own fate, but I can't do something as insane as they did, or else my conscience won't rest. I understand what my mom means. Although we hate them, if my grandmother and uncle were to lose their lives, we wouldn't be able to live in peace for the rest of our days, because we are human, not beasts. I told my mom what my grandmother did to me after she was gone in my previous life. My mom's eyes turned red with anger. I hugged her and tried to calm her down. The root of it all was that lottery ticket. My grandmother sold me, but it was that family who left me dead and dismembered. On causality, Grandma is the chief culprit, but that family, who now doesn't recognize me, is the true culprit behind my death. I recall some details from my previous life. Before I died, I seemed to hear the fool's parents say that the money had gone down the drain again, and they should have held back and not killed me. Think about it now, they may not be the first to buy a girl, and perhaps this could be the way for them to get their comeuppance. While waiting for Grandma's resolution, my mom hired a private detective to investigate the village where the simpleton's family lived. Within 2 days, he reported back, saying the entire village was very insular, and there must be something fishy going on in this day and age. My mom took the clumsy approach of writing an anonymous letter and sending it to the police station. In addition to my personal information, I wrote down all the experiences of my previous life, do my best and leave the rest to fate. It all depends on whether the police will take it seriously and investigate. The day after Grandma and Grandma were released, Grandma was taken to the police station again. This time, the person reporting the incident was my grandmother. My mother's phone, ever since she divorced my father, had hardly been turned on. When my grandmother and grandmother were taken to the police station due to assaulting a police officer and were detained, no one could find her. If it weren't for my mother taking me for a walk near the police station every day, we wouldn't have discovered what happened to my grandmother and grandmother. When my mother saw her grandmother handcuffed and walking towards the police station herself, she finally turned on her phone, having witnessed everything from the corner, because my uncle and father-in-law were still in detention. As my grandmother was getting older, the police always had to notify her children when they reported. After receiving a call from the police station, my mother brought me along, pretending to have arrived from elsewhere, and we coincidentally met my father at the station entrance. Maying, Nyo, where have you been these days? When I went to your workplace, they said you had resigned. My mother ignored him and led me in with big steps. After hearing the police's explanation, we understood why the two elderly people had come in together again. Grandma had mentioned before that she wanted to clean up Granny, but she never found the opportunity. Last time they fought at the lottery center entrance, Grandma also figured out Granny's temperament. She devised a plan to let Granny hear where she had hidden the lottery ticket. She wanted to wait until her younger uncle was released in 2 days before going to redeem it. Sure enough, the second day after the two of them went out, Granny sneaked to Grandma's house and was caught red-handed by Grandma, who had been waiting. If it weren't for calling the neighbor for help in advance, Grandma almost got beaten to death by the stick Grandma carried with her. Hearing this, I realized that in my previous life, when my mother had an accident, it wasn't a crime of passion by Grandma. She herself is a ruthless and vicious person. Before, there was nothing she needed to fight for or snatch, but because of a lottery ticket worth hundreds of thousands, she was willing to take the risk. This time, although my grandmother wasn't physically harmed, my other grandmother couldn't avoid going to prison. After learning what my grandmother had done, my father ran to my other grandmother and knelt down in front of her. Mom, this is all a misunderstanding. My mother is old. Please forgive her. Let's settle this privately. We can't let my mother go to jail. Grandma ignored him and pestered my mom instead. We're divorced. Your mom's life is no longer my concern. Don't come bothering me anymore. It was then that Grandma found out about my parents' divorce. Upon hearing my mom's words, she rushed forward and slapped my dad across the face. How dare you call me your mother after getting divorced? Just as shameless as your mother. Get out. Leaving the police station, my mother refused my grandmother's offer and took me back to my grandmother's house. She said she wanted to take me to live in another city. My grandmother sighed but agreed. When I first came back, my mother was filled with hatred, thinking about the indifference of my grandmother's family in my previous life. But after these few incidents, my grandmother and uncle have suffered, and my mother has gradually let go of her obsession with the past. Moreover, my uncle is about to be released. Under my grandmother's influence, he is not someone to be trifled with. Whether my grandmother and uncle will have a peaceful life in the future is still uncertain, because I was asking for help everywhere, trying to save my grandmother. My father kept taking time off work. Already on the verge of being laid off, he became one of the first to be let go. Under multiple blows, needing money to pull strings, he forgot that he could go to the bank to reissue his bank card. Instead, he broke the lock at Grandma's house, and while searching for the card, a neighbor called the police, who took him to the station. It's funny when you think about it. Grandma was wary of our family, never giving my dad a key to her house and never allowing us to visit. But to save her, my dad did something foolish. And if Grandma didn't know, that would be one thing. Even if she did know, she would surely scold my dad, blaming him for damaging her door. Because of the miscarriage, not a single person from the Zhao family showed up. As soon as my uncle was released from detention, he was served with divorce papers. My father was locked up for a night due to a misunderstanding, and after a series of blows, he fell ill. As soon as he was released, he wanted to find my mother, but she refused to see him. After asking for my wishes, my mom and I chose the place where we wanted to live in the future. We didn't tell anyone and left the city where we had lived for many years. A month later, my grandmother called. She said she had installed surveillance since my grandmother suddenly showed up at her house last time. I never expected to see my uncle frequently loitering near her house on the surveillance footage. Out of fear, she reported it to the police and learned from them about my uncle's intentions. Having lost his wife and lacking the money to buy a house, he felt resentful and was determined to get my grandmother's money by any means necessary. Fortunately, the surveillance footage allowed my grandmother to notice his suspicious behavior early on, preventing a tragedy from occurring. Meanwhile, an official announcement was made. The XX family from XX village has been detained on criminal charges for allegedly trafficking and murdering multiple women. Seeing the familiar place name and surname, I knew it was that family who had been caught. It seems my mother's anonymous letter was taken seriously, leading not only to the downfall of a family of beasts, it can also bring those women who were wronged back into the light. It also avenges my past self. My mother used that money to buy a storefront and started a small business. Without her mother-in-law's torment, my mother's complexion improved, and she often wore a smile on her face. Many uncles around have shown interest in my mother, but she has turned them all down. I heard that grandma was sentenced to 3 years, and my uncle got a similar sentence. Because of that fight, my uncle resented my grandmother. Even though she gave him all the prize money, he drifted apart from her. She, who never paid much attention to my mother before, now calls her every few days. I hope my mom can go back and spend more time with her. My mom didn't agree, and even when grandma said she was unfilial, she didn't care. I heard that my dad can only take odd jobs here and there because grandma always asks people to have him send money to the prison. He was exhausted and had an accident while working because he dozed off. His left hand was amputated. Good and evil will be rewarded in the end. In this life, my mother and I will live well together. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My parents spent all the family savings on traveling, yet they expect me to support them in their old age. I advised them to save some money in the bank for emergencies. However, my parents thought I was after their money and rejected my suggestion, embarking on a lavish lifestyle of traveling the world. 3 years later, they had squandered $4 million, only to turn to me and demand that I take them in and provide for their retirement. In my past life, I was soft-hearted and took them in, but they turned around and, together with my brother, tricked me out of my property, leaving me homeless on the streets. I died under the overpass after being bullied by thugs, and when I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my parents came looking for me after their trip. Yun Yun, where are you living now? Your dad and I brought you some local specialties. Want to come try them? Hearing the familiar voice on the phone, I was momentarily dazed before realizing I had been reborn, and it was 2 years earlier. Back then, my parents also gave me a call, saying they had bought some local specialties and wanted to come see me. Since I was little, they hadn't paid much attention to me, but this time, after their trip, they still remembered to bring me something. I was incredibly moved at the time. Without a second thought, I sent my mom the address of my neighborhood, letting them into my home without any hesitation, so much so that when they later suggested staying at my place long-term, I agreed without a moment's hesitation. But they joined forces with my brother to seize my property and savings, drove me out of my home, left me homeless on the streets, and caused me to die a miserable death. Seeing that I hadn't replied for a while, my mom thought the signal was poor, so she raised her voice and repeated herself, already showing a hint of impatience in her tone. Listening to her voice, I felt a chill run down my spine. Given a second chance at life, I only want to live for myself and will no longer sacrifice my life for this false sense of family affection. Mom, I'm not at home. Why don't you take the local specialties to my brother? My sister-in-law and nephew will definitely be happy. My mother paused for a moment, then said after a while, then send me your address and home door code. I'll wait for you at your place. Still trying to get my door code. I won't be that foolish again in this life. Mom, the lock at my place isn't the kind with a passcode, it needs a key, and I took the key with me when I went out. You and Dad should come visit me another time. Just tell me when you're coming back. Mom's tone was growing increasingly impatient. She was certain I wouldn't dare refuse, as I had rarely defied her since childhood. Mom, my boss sent me on a business trip to another province. I won't be back for at least 3 to 5 months. In reality, I was lying on the living room sofa at that moment, thinking about having someone change the door at home soon. Mom, I can't talk anymore, or my boss will scold me. Without waiting for my mom to say anything else, I hung up the phone and switched it to airplane mode. I then took out my backup phone and efficiently contacted a nearby renovation company, spending 30,000 yuan to replace the door. Security hasn't been great lately. Miss, would you like to install a surveillance camera while you're at it? We're running a promotion right now. If you install it together with the door, you can get a 10% discount. Based on my past life experience, my parents definitely wouldn't give up easily. Installing a surveillance camera would indeed be a good precaution, and just install the most expensive one for me, the kind with super clear visuals and crystal clear sound. I packed up my things, bought a plane ticket, and went on vacation to Thailand. As soon as I got off the plane, I turned on my phone, and this time it was my dad calling. Yun Yun, Mom and Dad have no money left, and we've sold the house. We really have nowhere to go, since your place is just sitting empty. How about mailing the key over? I sneered inwardly. Back when you wanted to sell the house, I was against it. After you sold the house, you gave half the money to my brother and spent the other half on traveling. I advised you to save it, but you scolded me, accusing me of trying to take your money. Now that the money is gone and you have nowhere to go, you remember your daughter again. Dad, doesn't my brother have a place too? Why don't you go to him? My father stammered. Your brother and his wife are living just fine. It would be too much of a disturbance for us to go there, so moving in with me wouldn't be a disturbance. Wait a minute, didn't you always tell me since I was little that having a daughter is useless and that you'd have to rely on your son for support in old age? Now that you're old and need someone to take care of you, why aren't you relying on my brother anymore? My mom was leaning in close to the phone, listening. Perhaps she had been holding back for a long time, but upon hearing this, she finally couldn't help but shout, "Think you're so capable now that you've made something of yourself, have a job, and can buy a house, you don't plan on supporting me and your dad anymore. If it weren't for me raising you through thick and thin, putting you through college, would you have what you have today?" Hearing this, the chill on my face grew even heavier. Back when I got into college, my mom thought it was useless for a girl to read so many books and wanted me to marry early. If I hadn't cried and insisted on studying, applied for student loans myself, and worked part-time while in school, I would never have been able to finish college. As for buying a house, when I first brought up the idea, my mom was the first to jump out and oppose it. She thinks buying a house is a man's responsibility. Why should a girl like me buy a house? Wouldn't it be easier to just marry someone who already has a house and a car? They even threatened me, saying that if I insisted on buying a house, they wouldn't give me a single cent. I never expected them to help me in the first place. When I told them I was planning to buy a house, I just wanted their blessing as family. But then they said that since they raised me and I'm working now, I should give them 2,000 yuan a month for living expenses. It wasn't until my parents sold the family house, gave the money to my brother, and went traveling themselves that I realized my family wasn't short on money. They just didn't think it was necessary to spend money on me. They themselves, along with my brother, my sister-in-law, and my nephew, were all more important than me. Mom, I told you I can't go back. If you have nowhere to go, go find my brother. After saying that, I hung up the phone and turned it off. I looked up at the clear blue sky here, and suddenly everything became clear. Heaven has given me a chance to start over. In this life, I will live well and say goodbye to all these rotten people and rotten things. Lying on the soft hotel bed, thinking about my past life, I grew more and more curious. If my parents really went to find my eldest brother in this life, would he let them stay? Suddenly remembered that when my older brother moved into his new home, I gave their family a smart voice-controlled TV with built-in surveillance features. At the time, my sister-in-law even asked me to turn on the surveillance function to prevent my nephew from secretly turning on the TV to watch cartoons. I tried logging into the account and found that it hadn't been logged out yet. The surveillance feed clearly showed the living room of my older brother's house. Calculating the travel time, if my parents haven't been delayed on the way, they should be arriving at my older brother's house soon, right? Sure enough, the doorbell at my eldest brother's house soon rang. At that moment, only my sister-in-law was at home, resting in her room, now awakened by the disturbance. She came out of the room looking rather displeased. "Who is it?" When my sister-in-law opened the door, she saw my parents standing at the entrance with all their bags and luggage. The TV was angled just right toward the doorway, and the surveillance camera captured the scene perfectly. "Tinger, it's Mom and Dad." My dad smiled shyly at my sister-in-law, while my mom unceremoniously squeezed past her and walked inside. Over the years, my mom and my sister-in-law had maintained a polite and respectful facade, but in reality, neither of them thought much of the other. "Where's my grandson? Where did he go?" My sister-in-law rolled her eyes behind their backs. "Where else could he be, who has as much free time as you two? It's Tuesday today, so Xiao Hao must be at kindergarten." My mom, acting like a leader on an inspection tour, glanced around the living room, then went to check the kitchen, and without my sister-in-law's permission, headed into their bedroom. My sister-in-law exploded on the spot. "Mom, that's my room, can you please not just walk in?" When I used to live at home, my mom was the same way. No matter if my door was locked or not, she never knocked and would just barge right in. She had keys to every room in the house. Since my sister-in-law married my brother, she has never spent a full day living with my mother, otherwise, she would definitely be even more unbearable than I am. Who knows if you've let some shady people in, my mother muttered, thinking my sister-in-law hadn't heard, but my sister-in-law's face immediately darkened. She isn't like me, she doesn't give in to my mother. Over the years, spoiled by my brother, her temper has become increasingly delicate. Mom, what kind of shady people are you talking about? Seeing the situation was getting tense, my dad immediately stepped in to mediate, pulling out the items they had brought in their luggage. Tingher, don't be angry, look at what we brought for Hao and all of you from our trip. Over the years, they had used the 4 million to travel to many countries. My mom, who loves to indulge, bought a lot of bags, cosmetics, toys, and other things from duty-free shops. Otherwise, they wouldn't have squandered all their money in just 3 short years. Seeing this, my sister-in-law's anger subsided a bit, and she began warmly welcoming my parents. When my older brother heard that our parents had come to the house, he left work early and picked up Hao on the way back. Mom, Dad, how long are you planning to stay this time? Where do you plan to go next for fun? Big brother excitedly pulled off a roast duck leg and put it into Mom's bowl. Mom and Dad looked a bit strange, but before they could say anything, sister-in-law spoke up. Mom, Dad, we're planning to switch Hao to a different kindergarten. We want to enroll him in a bilingual kindergarten, but we're still a bit short on money. Since they got married, the two of them have asked Mom and Dad for money far too many times. As soon as she said this, who in the room didn't know she was here to ask for money again? But they didn't know that our parents were already out of money, not even enough to stay in a hotel. Mom said, Tingher, what difference does it make which kindergarten you go to? Changing kindergartens frequently isn't good for the child either. Dad chimed in agreement. The eldest brother stopped eating the roast duck, and his face turned sour. You always say Hao is your precious darling, but now you're reluctant to let him attend a good kindergarten. Mom and Dad, I'm not trying to criticize you, but you have money to travel abroad everywhere. So why are you so stingy with your own family? Watching this scene, I was drinking water and nearly choked. Big brother is half right about that. My parents are stingy, but only with me, their daughter. They love my sister-in-law and nephew by extension, so you can't really call them stingy. They probably forgot that before my parents went on their trip, they transferred half the house payment to them. What kind of ordinary family can just hand over millions without a second thought? But my parents, who dote on their son to the point of obsession, actually did it. Dad knew he couldn't hide it any longer. He's not good at lying anyway, so he just came clean. We're out of money. We came here to ask if we could stay with you. Otherwise, we really have nowhere else to go. My sister-in-law and my brother exchanged a glance. My brother chuckled. Dad, you must be joking. That's several $1,000,000. How could it possibly be spent so quickly? My sister-in-law added. Exactly, Mom. If you were really out of money, how could you afford to buy so many luxury items? It's precisely because of these 3 years of constant travel and extravagant spending that the money disappeared so quickly. In my previous life, when I heard my parents say they had no money left, I was also shocked. That was 4 million, spent in just 3 years. And they hadn't even thought to save a little for themselves, but they said they were still young and could go out to earn more, so I eventually let it go. However, my brother, it seems he couldn't let it go. Have you really spent it all? Not a single cent left. How could you be so wasteful? That was 4 million, gone in just 3 years. You might as well have left it all to me back then. My dad immediately got upset when he heard this. Didn't we give you 4 million too? If you really don't want us living here, just give back the 4 million, and we'll go buy another house. When my brother and sister-in-law heard that our parents wanted the 4 million back, they felt as if the sky was about to fall. The couple went into their room to discuss, and when they came out, their attitude toward my parents had softened quite a bit. My brother, Dad, Mom, you can stay here as long as you want. It's not like we don't have an extra room. My sister-in-law, yes, Hao misses his grandparents too. It'll be nice for you to spend more time with him. I don't believe for a second that my malicious brother and sister-in-law are genuinely willing to let my parents stay. He must still have some dirty tricks up his sleeve. Just as expected, they had just calmed down our parents when my brother's call came through. I didn't answer. He called several times, and then my sister-in-law called. They saw the call didn't go through, so they sent me a text message. Mom and Dad are in trouble. Come to brother's house quickly. Still think I'm a fool. I might have actually been fooled into going back before, but in this life, I absolutely refuse to have anything to do with this family again. What a nuisance. My eldest brother originally planned to have our parents live with me. After all, in my previous life, It was he who persuaded our parents to move in and gradually took over my property. He couldn't get in touch with me no matter how hard he tried, wondering if I had heard some news and run away early, feeling quite uneasy. They would rather not live with our parents than with me, especially these days. Whenever my mom and sister-in-law got together, they would argue every single day, which made him increasingly irritable. He had no choice but to return to the company and secretly use internal channels to check my property address. My brother works at a real estate company. When I bought my house, they didn't support it and didn't lift a finger to help, so I never took the initiative to tell them where I bought it. My brother took the household register my mother gave him, which had my ID information on it. He quickly found out where I had bought my house. When he learned that I lived in the Tianjin one residential complex, his expression immediately changed, and his eyes filled with shock. After all, the housing prices there are over 100,000 yuan per square meter, and the residents nearby are either wealthy or influential. He never imagined that his sister, who had been relying on financial aid all along, could afford a house in such a place. He checked several times before confirming that he hadn't made a mistake. That's right, I kept it from my family and became a blogger online. Through live streaming sales, I've amassed a fortune worth millions. It's just that in my previous life, I trusted my family too much and told my parents about the house and all our savings. Little did I know it would invite a wolf into the house. Thinking back on the experience of being deceived in my past life, I just want to slap myself twice. Unable to reach me, the family was thrown into chaos. My brother didn't wait any longer and took my sister-in-law and my parents directly to my residential complex. He even hired a locksmith, ready to break into my home. Fortunately, I had been cautious and installed a surveillance camera at the entrance. I immediately called the property management. Because I am their VIP homeowner, they immediately sent someone to handle the situation. My parents argued with the staff, saying I am their daughter, so my house is their house, and they only had the lock picked because they were worried about my safety. Sorry, we are entrusted by the homeowner and have an obligation to protect their property. If you insist on opening the lock, we will have no choice but to call the police and report you for illegal entry. I didn't expect the property management to be so effective. I really like what you said. The 5-figure management fee I pay every year wasn't wasted after all. My parents, brother, and sister-in-law cursed and shouted at the door for a while, but in the end, they were dragged away and kicked out by the community security guards. After making sure they wouldn't come back, the property management sent me a WeChat message to report the situation. Next time they come, do the same thing. I gave the instruction and then sent her a big red envelope. The property management received the red envelope and happily agreed. After the eldest brother's plan fell through, my parents had no choice but to go home with them. My sister-in-law reluctantly lived with my parents for a while. During this time, the household chores fell on my mother. My father was useless when it came to housework, completely clueless and only making things worse. My sister-in-law openly and subtly implied that my parents were freeloaders. My mother, with her strong sense of pride, couldn't bear it. On the surface, she said she was willing to do laundry, cook, and even pick up and drop off the kids for my older brother and his family. My sister-in-law's complaints finally lessened a bit. I remembered back when I was at home. My mom never did any work. She only gave orders, saying what she wanted to eat that day and telling me to go buy groceries and cook. I also washed the clothes for the whole family. Even so, I was often called a money loser by my parents. During winter and summer vacations, if I didn't go out to work, I'd get side-eyed and be told I was just eating for free. Now it's finally Mom's turn to taste this bitterness. Mom and Dad have spent all their money and have no funds to buy groceries, so they can only reach out to my eldest brother for money. Mom, I've already handed over all my salary. If you need money, go ask Tinger for it. My eldest brother simply shirks responsibility, completely ignoring family matters. I saw in the surveillance footage that my mom, shamelessly putting on an old face, went to ask my sister-in-law for money. In the end, she was mocked and ridiculed before finally getting the grocery money, and she still had to go out early in the morning to buy groceries and serve the whole family. Truly, the pitiable have their own detestable traits. I ordered takeout at the hotel, eating fried chicken and drinking beer while watching the video on the big screen. I couldn't help but feel it was more thrilling than a TV drama. At 8 in the evening, my eldest brother dragged his exhausted body back home, just in time to run into my mom and sister-in-law having an argument. It all started when my mom went to pick up my nephew and took him out for ice cream, which ended up giving him a stomachache that lasted all night. My sister-in-law pointed at my mom's nose and yelled, "You old thing, are you trying to kill my precious son? If anything happens to him, I'll make you pay with your life." But in reality, my nephew just caught a chill, taking advantage of his mom's protection. He kept crying and saying his stomach hurt so much he couldn't go to school, insisting he needed to eat something delicious instead. My eldest brother usually dotes on his son the most. Upon hearing that my mom had given his nephew something that upset his stomach, he immediately sided with his wife and scolded my mother. My mom felt wronged, and my dad was useless. He watched as my mom was pointed at and scolded, yet he didn't utter a single word. I'm not staying here anymore, so I don't have to put up with your nonsense. In a fit of anger, my mom wanted to leave, but my dad immediately grabbed her and whispered, "We're out of money. If we don't stay with our son, where else can we go?" Mom was just so angry earlier that she lost her temper. But as soon as my sister-in-law heard her say she wouldn't stay, she immediately beamed with joy. "All right then, go ahead and leave. Ever since my parents moved in, my older brother hasn't had a single peaceful day." After thinking it over, he also decided to send them away. He pulled my dad aside, took a few $100 bills from his wallet, and stuffed them into my dad's hand. "Dad, you and Mom go find a hotel nearby to stay. I'll figure out a way to bring you back in a few days." My dad couldn't stand the two women in the house arguing every day either, so he took the money and went to pack his things in the room. Before leaving, my mom rolled her eyes at my sister-in-law and muttered, "What a piece of work." Watching this, I couldn't help but applaud. This is what they call, "The wicked are tormented by the wicked." Back when my older brother and sister-in-law were dating, I had already warned my mom that my sister-in-law had a bit of a temper, because when I treated my sister-in-law to a meal, I personally witnessed her verbally abuse a waitress over a trivial matter, reducing the young girl to tears. At that time, I was already uneasy, and when I got home, I mentioned it to my mom, but my mom turned around and complained to my older brother, saying I was speaking ill of my sister-in-law. Even now, my older brother and sister-in-law still don't think much of me. My older brother doesn't give my dad much money, but my parents have grown accustomed to a certain lifestyle. Over the years, they refuse to stay in hotels that cost $100 or $200 per night and insist on staying in star-rated hotels that cost several hundred per night. In just 3 or 4 days, all the money was spent. During this time, they still didn't give up on trying to contact me. Unable to reach me, they guessed I was deliberately avoiding them. In a fit of anger, they started tagging me frantically in the family group chat. Late at night, my phone was bombarded with calls from relatives, and only then did I find out what had happened. It turns out they were in our family WeChat group, accusing me of abusing them and kicking them out of the house. Excuse me, wasn't it my sister-in-law who abused them, and my older brother who kicked them out? How can this be pinned on me? I continued reading. I saw my parents talking about how hard they worked to raise me, only for me to grow wings after graduation and ignore them completely. They have effectively painted me as an unfilial daughter, yet in the eyes of our relatives, they are the epitome of a proper couple, always presenting themselves as the most devoted parents in front of outsiders. As a result, everyone has taken my parents' side, accusing me of being unfilial, with some even calling to try and persuade me. My WeChat is already at 99 plus unread messages, along with dozens of missed calls and over 100 text messages. They all came to criticize me. In my family, there is also a cousin who is a small-time internet celebrity. To show off, she screenshotted the chat records from our WeChat group and posted them online, sparking heated discussions. Some even went as far as to dox me. I couldn't help but marvel at the power of the internet. Some netizens actually managed to find out who I am and exposed my online username. I already have millions of followers online, and coincidentally, I have a live streaming sales event coming up soon. I never expected that as soon as I entered the live stream, a flood of strangers poured in. None of them were my fans, yet they each took turns insulting me in my live stream, saying I had drained my parents' blood while building an inspirational persona online, claiming my character was corrupt and the products I promoted were all fakes. Even rival companies jumped in to take a swipe, just to ride the wave of attention. Because of this incident, my cover was completely blown. My sister-in-law was shopping online when she saw this trending topic, and her jaw dropped in shock. She held her phone, shocked, and found her older brother. "Is this your sister? Because I usually don't bother with my appearance at home, never dress up, and haven't interacted with them for several years." Later, when I entered the live streaming e-commerce industry, I learned a masterful makeup technique, and with the help of filters, there really is quite a difference between how I look online and offline, so they never noticed. The eldest brother was also taken aback, a flicker of envy flashing in his eyes. He was well aware of how lucrative live streaming sales could be. In the past, he had considered developing this side business, but no matter how hard he tried, he he just couldn't make it work, yet his younger sister, whom he had always looked down on, had quietly become a popular live streaming influencer. How could he not be envious? During this time, I had been letting the public opinion simmer. The company wants me to step forward to resolve this, and even some partner companies have come to me for an explanation. Due to my personal issues, the quality of their products has been called into question, and I must take responsibility, but I have remained silent all along, and I haven't responded to anyone's messages in the family group chat. I consulted with lawyers, and they advised me to gather and secure all evidence, ensuring a decisive blow. I retrieved all my bank statements since graduating from high school. Didn't my parents always say they raised their daughter in luxury and their son in hardship? Didn't they claim they bought me a house, only for me to turn my back on them, kick them out, and leave them with nowhere to go? Didn't they say that after graduation, I became a freeloader, idle and only asking my family for money, even slandering me, saying the car I drive now was bought for me by an old man who kept me? I gathered all the evidence, sent a copy to the family group chat, and tagged that little internet famous cousin. Then, on my personal account, I issued a lawyer's letter and uploaded the evidence. It included the student loan, which could prove that the tuition for all 4 years of college was covered by the national student loan I applied for, and that I had already paid it off by working after graduation. During my 4 years of college, I only received a single 800 yuan living expense transfer from my parents in the first year of school, and nothing else after that. Additionally, there are the salary records from companies I worked for while studying and holding part-time jobs during my time in school. This proves that during my studies, I was not relying on draining my parents' resources, living the life of a pampered young lady who never lifted a finger, indulging in a lavish and extravagant lifestyle. There is also the 2,000 yuan monthly living allowance I transferred to my mother after graduation. My car was also bought for me by the company. As for the house, it was purchased using my Housing Provident Fund loan and salary card, and it has absolutely nothing to do with my parents. All this evidence completely refuted the relatives and netizens who had previously insulted me. Public opinion began to shift in my favor, and my cousin also deleted her previous posts on her account and sent me an apology letter. Because she was the source of the online rumors, her account was downgraded by the platform as a warning. She was so angry that she complained to my aunt, blaming my parents for causing her misunderstanding and even getting her cyberbullied. My aunt, who was in the family group chat, relentlessly scolded my parents, berating them so harshly that they didn't even dare to look at their phones. They refused to answer any calls from relatives. All the accusations that were initially directed at me have now bounced right back at them, and I took advantage of this wave of traffic to start another live stream, with the sales amount directly hitting the top of the charts. Collaboration offers kept pouring in. My parents' reputation was completely ruined in the family group chat. They had originally thought they could pressure me to come back by having relatives put pressure on me. Now that I haven't returned, they've ended up getting themselves into trouble instead. With no money and nowhere to live, my parents had no choice but to slink back to my eldest brother. As soon as they entered the neighborhood, they saw a middle-aged couple holding my nephew. They didn't recognize the couple and, thinking my nephew had encountered child traffickers, immediately started fighting with them. My sister-in-law rushed over and was completely stunned. "Mom, Dad, what are you doing?" She wasn't calling my parents, but that middle-aged couple. My sister-in-law and my brother only registered their marriage and never held a wedding, so my parents never had the chance to meet these in-laws. My parents were initially a bit embarrassed. It was all a misunderstanding, but soon they couldn't laugh anymore, because they discovered that the in-laws lived in the same neighborhood as their son. They knew very well that the houses in this neighborhood cost 3 to 4 million yuan each, while the in-laws were quite poor, with their family working in farming. If it weren't for my brother being a vocational school graduate and my sister-in-law working hard to earn a bachelor's degree, my mother wouldn't have agreed to their relationship. But given their family's situation, it's impossible for them to buy a house here. My brother couldn't stand my mom's fussing, so he finally told the truth. It turns out that the 4 million yuan they gave for the house was taken by my sister-in-law to buy a house for her parents. When my parents heard this, they were about to faint. "Pay back the money, make them pay it back," my sister-in-law sneered. "This money was given to you voluntarily, why should we pay it back? Besides, isn't your money just my husband's money? My husband gave me the money to spend as I please. What's wrong with me buying a house for my own parents?" Their argument was so loud that even though I didn't have my phone on speaker, I could hear every word clearly through the surveillance, sighing inwardly at the fact that there really are shameless people like my sister-in-law in this world. You really have no shame. How is this your money? It's clearly the hard-earned retirement savings that your father-in-law and I have worked for most of our lives. If you don't want to pay it back, that's fine too." My sister-in-law's eyes lit up. "Then have your parents give up the house for us to live in. After all, it was bought with our money, so it's our house." My sister-in-law's face darkened again. She played her trump card and started threatening to divorce my brother. She said that if my parents wanted money or the house, she would divorce my brother and take my nephew away, making sure he never saw him again. My nephew cooperatively started crying and throwing a tantrum. "I hate Grandpa, I hate Grandma, can't you just get out of my house?" My mom had been so angry lately that her mind was in a fog. Hearing my nephew say this, she clutched her chest, gasped for breath, and fainted. My brother immediately called an ambulance. During this time, he couldn't reach me, so he contacted my talent agency, MS. Chen from the company called me and explained the situation. My brother said my mother had a heart attack and is on the verge of death, urging me to go back and see her one last time. If I don't go back, he'll post a video online, calling me unfilial and heartless. His move is truly vicious. If my mom really gets sick from their anger, and if I don't go back, I might end up being blamed for causing her death. However, he doesn't know that the hospital they went to has a senior I know. We've been close since college, and after my mom was admitted to the hospital, I notified my senior to take good care of her for me. Sure enough, it wasn't long before my senior sent me a message: "Your mother has already woken up, but she absolutely refuses to be discharged from the hospital and even asked me to issue a critical illness notice for her." My mother has always been in excellent health. This time, she simply fainted from anger. After a few 4 drips of glucose, she should be ready to leave the hospital. Her refusal to be discharged is definitely just a ploy to wait for me to return so she can extort me. How could I let her have her way? I told my cousin about this. Because of what happened before, she was cyberbullied for a long time and could be said to harbor deep hatred toward my mother and the others. Now I'm giving her a chance to clear her name, and she agreed almost without hesitation. I tagged everyone in the family group chat, saying that my mother was sick and hospitalized, but I had been mentally and physically exhausted due to the public opinion recently and was also hospitalized. I really wanted to help but couldn't return to the country to visit my mother. I hoped that relatives who had time could go and see her. I also posted a photo of myself getting in 4 drip in the hospital. Before my mom could say anything in the group chat, my cousin immediately jumped in and said, "I'm free, I'll go to the hospital later, with me there, sis, you can rest assured 120%. My mom was still waiting for me to go back and see her, but who knew she would end up waiting for my cousin instead. I had my senior arrange a single room for them. My mom, dad, brother, and sister-in-law were in the ward, discussing how to trick me into coming back and then extort money from me. All of this was secretly recorded by my cousin, who had gone to the hospital to visit. In the video, my brother, "When that wretched girl comes back, we'll make her transfer the house to mom. We absolutely can't let some outsider man take advantage." My mother, "Right, once the house is transferred, we'll find a man for her to marry, then the bride price can be used to buy your dad a car." My sister-in-law, "But that should go to your grandson first. His kindergarten transfer is urgent, and we're still short 300,000, the bride price would be just enough." My dad, "I think we should use it as a down payment to buy a house." My nephew, No, I want to eat delicious food and go to the amusement park. When is Auntie coming back? I heard she has a lot of money. Mom said all that money will be mine in the future, saved for me to get married. When my cousin sent me the video, I was so angry after watching it that my whole body trembled. Although I had witnessed their cruelty in my past life, I never imagined they could be so shameless. I am their family too. I'm not even dead yet, and they're already thinking about how to handle my assets. It's not even nighttime yet, and they're already starting to dream. My mom and the others still don't know about the video. My brother, after getting a reply from my agency saying I wouldn't return, angrily recorded a video of my mom in the hospital room and posted it online. In the video, my mother looks haggard, still on an 4 drip, accusing me of being an unfilial daughter who doesn't even come back to see her when she's sick. No matter how big the conflict between mother and daughter, it shouldn't be so cold and heartless when a family member is sick, right? Now that she's making a lot of money online, where's the sense of old affection? But I think her family really didn't treat her well before. Upstairs, if your mother were dying, would you cut off all contact with her just because she said a few words to you, refusing to see her even for the last time? I looked at the comments below and realized there are so many righteous people these days. After letting the video simmer online for a while, I signaled to my cousin that she could post the video. My cousin had been holding back for a long time and finally, upon receiving my instruction, eagerly uploaded the video along with a short essay. I was previously deceived by my aunt's family and wronged my sister. I finally understand why my sister was always unwilling to come home, because this family is full of vampires waiting to suck her blood. The previous incident gained a lot of attention, with many people following up on the aftermath, so it didn't take long for the video my cousin posted on her account to go viral, being widely shared by many influencers. The outrageous remarks made by my parents, brother, and sister-in-law in the video also sparked heated discussions, quickly trending on social media. Now the entire nation knows who they are. Even many public account bloggers have posted articles overnight, teaching how to escape from a terrible family of origin. Netizens who previously sympathized with my mother have been proven wrong. Having such family members is truly unfortunate. There are still people speaking up for them. I hope they also get to have parents like that. In short, my mom and the others' plans fell through now, not only among relatives, but also after returning to the community. Some elderly people who had seen the video pointed fingers at my brother and sister-in-law's family. I reported to the real estate company that my brother had abused his authority by privately investigating citizens' property information. As a result, my brother was directly fired and fined. At the private elementary school where my sister-in-law worked, the parent committee collectively boycotted her, not wanting someone with such poor personal ethics to teach their children. Under pressure, the school also suspended my sister-in-law. Even the international preschool where my nephew initially interviewed also rejected his admission application. My sister-in-law said my parents ruined her life and insisted on divorcing my brother. My brother was overwhelmed and directly kicked my parents out of the house, this time refusing to give them even a single cent. My parents had no money and nowhere to live, so they angrily came to my neighborhood to cause a scene, but before he could even enter the building, the property management spotted him and had security escort him away. They lingered at the entrance of the residential area for a long time. When night fell, the wind began to howl and rain started pouring, forcing them to take shelter under an overpass to sleep. However, they had only just fallen asleep when they encountered a robber. In my previous life, it was this very robber I encountered. Seeing me, a young woman, alone there, he directly assaulted me. In the struggle, he strangled me to death, and when he saw my father and mother, his lecherous eyes roamed over my mother's body. He snatched the gold necklace from her neck. My dad tried to stop him, but was beaten so badly he nearly suffered a stomach hemorrhage. My mother cried and pleaded with him to show mercy. Just then, the police arrived, and the robber immediately took off running. Listening to my cousin vividly describe the scene, it was as if she had been right there herself. Ugh, serves him right. My cousin called me, speaking in a mysterious tone. Sis, do you know what happened next? Leaning against the balcony of the seaside apartment, I replied softly while enjoying the sea breeze. Yeah, what happened? Your parents couldn't swallow their anger and stormed back to your brother's house, only to see your brother, your sister-in-law, and her parents gathered around your little nephew, a picture of a happy family. Your mother couldn't control her rage, rushed straight to the kitchen, grabbed a kitchen knife, and slashed your sister-in-law's parents. They were severely injured, and your sister-in-law went mad, also picking up a knife to fight back. Your mother was injured, and when your father and brother tried to intervene, they were caught in the crossfire of the two mad women and were slashed into the ICU. Right now, they're posting a crowdfunding campaign in the family group chat to raise money for medical expenses. I heard they even put their house up for sale. But unfortunately, they bought it at a peak price, and no one is willing to take it off their hands. Sis, you better not come back now, or you'll just end up getting dragged into their mess again. I let out a heavy sigh, and hearing about their current situation, I couldn't help but feel it was just karma. Why on earth would I be foolish enough to go back? I took another half-month leave from the agency and booked myself a plane ticket. Tomorrow, I'm flying to Malaysia to go diving. In a couple of days, I'll also be heading to Europe to see the doves. I'm very busy. I don't have time to deal with these rotten people and their nonsense. Before leaving, I put on a beautiful makeup look and posted a photo on my social media feed. Big data doesn't lie. When you scroll to this point, like and leave a comment saying, I'm doing well, make peace with the past, and you'll find things getting smoother and smoother. My cousin was quick with her fingers, immediately giving me a like and commenting, I'm doing well, and I'll keep getting better. After hearing the second story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. In my past life, I was an overachiever, but I was the foil to the lucky female protagonist. As my consciousness emerged from a state of confusion, I found myself soaking in a pool of warm water. Am I reborn back in the womb? The last thing I remember is being at the Nobel Prize ceremony, watching helplessly as the medical award that should have been mine was effortlessly snatched away by a woman named Sun Wan Wan. It took me decades to find a way to conquer cancer, yet Sun Wan Wan just went on a trip to the countryside and discovered a miraculous herb in a mountain valley that can cure all diseases. Why? I refused to accept this. Intense resentment allowed me to see the truth of the world. It turns out the world I live in is a book. Sun Wan Wan is the favored daughter of heaven, the female lead. Her life is like being spoon-fed by fate. She can guess exam questions, find money on the street, and always sell stocks at their peak, and I am the one used to contrast just how blessed she is, a diligent and hardworking cannon fodder, forever crushed by her good luck at critical moments. I can feel it. I'm about 3 months away from being born. I silently clench my fist. So what if she's the darling of heaven, in this life, starting from scratch? I refuse to believe that science and logic can't outcompete a cheat who relies on metaphysics. The first step of rebirth is to start grinding from the brain. Since I'm idle anyway, I begin consciously training my brain. I listen to the sounds outside my belly, analyze the sources, and discern the emotions of each person. I quickly got a handle on my family situation in this life. My mom's name is Lin Lon. Her voice carried a sense of, how should I put it, a kind of world-weary exhaustion. Sigh. Rejected again. These old fogies. My ideas are so innovative, yet they insist the data isn't strong enough. Forget it, I'm done, it's not worth it, the academic world is just too exhausting, let it all go to hell. Sweetie, promise me you'll never follow in your mom's footsteps and become a scientist. It's exhausting, thankless work, and people look down on you. Let's just be couch potatoes and live a happy, carefree life. Okay, me, wow, I haven't even been born yet, and my mom's already planned out a life of slacking off for me. No way, absolutely not. With my mom in this state of mind, forget about her being my support. It's already a blessing if she doesn't hold me back. I have to find a way to reignite her fighting spirit. Besides my mom, there's another voice that often appears, which sounds like my grandmother. Shaolin, don't get stuck in a dead end. What's so great about the Gu family? Aren't they just a family of scholars? Back when you were dating that Gu boy, I didn't agree with it. Look at him now. He just packed up and went abroad without a second thought for you. What's the point of you carrying this big belly all by yourself? The child will take our family name Lin from birth. We'll raise them well and cut all ties with the Gu family. Understand, the Gu family. In my previous life, there was a top-tier academic family in the country, and their surname was Gu. The patriarch of the Gu family, Gu Chengye, was an academician of both the Chinese Academy of Sciences and the Chinese Academy of Engineering, a national treasure-level scientist. His son, who in this life is my nominal father Gu Yenji, was also an academic prodigy, securing a tenured position abroad at a young age, and Su Nuanyuan, in her previous life, relied on her lucky fish physique to coincidentally help the Gu family solve several major scientific research problems. In the end, she naturally married the most favored third-generation member of the Gu family and became the beloved of the entire Gu family. Now I feel even more urgent. I started attending classes frantically. My mom, being pregnant and staying at home, enjoys listening to recordings of various academic lectures in her free time. From quantum physics to genetic engineering, I listen with great interest. I categorize this knowledge and build a vast knowledge base in my little brain. Sometimes when my mom got tired of listening and wanted to switch to a music station, I would give a couple of gentle kicks in her belly to protest. Over time, my mom noticed my preference. Hey, this little one, as soon as they hear this stuff, they settle down, but when they hear pop songs, they get all restless. Could it be, they're really cut out for research? She said it in a teasing tone, not really taking it seriously, but since then, she has clearly increased the frequency of her academic lectures. While I was thriving in my studies, Sun Wan Wan in the next bed was not idle either. We were in the same hospital, in the same ward. Her mother, Aunt Lu, was a woman with a particularly loud voice, boasting every day in the ward about how blessed her unborn daughter was. Oh, Dr. Chen, isn't it strange? Ever since I became pregnant with our little Nuan Nuan, I've been picking up money while walking. The market vendor gives me an extra half-pound of meat, and my husband won a car in his company's lottery. Out of so many people, our little Nuan Nuan must be the reincarnation of the god of literature, bringing good fortune with her. My mom just smiled without saying a word, quietly turned up the volume on her headphones, and continued with my academic prenatal education. As the due date drew closer, the movements in my mom's belly grew more and more noticeable. I do radiocalisthenics in the amniotic fluid every day, stretching my arms and kicking my legs. It not only exercises my body but also massages my mother's stomach and intestines, promoting digestion. The effect is remarkable. My mom ate well and slept soundly throughout her entire third trimester, with no swelling in her hands or feet at all. Her mental state was so good she could have run an 800-meter race. In contrast, Aunt Lou in the next bed sighed and groaned all day long, complaining of pain here and swelling there. She was barely holding on, sustained only by the thought that, my daughter is blessed. Finally, on a certain sunny afternoon, my mom and Aunt Lou both went into labor at the same time. In the delivery room next door, Aunt Lou's wails pierced through the wall, sending chills down one's spine. "Ah, I can't take it anymore, I'm going to die, honey, I want a C-section." Warmth's dad, "Hurry, quick, bring me the peace talisman I prayed for, let warmth bless me." My mom, on the other hand, was much calmer. Under the guidance of the nurse, she breathed rhythmically and pushed with effort. I was also actively cooperating inside. In my previous life, I had a thorough understanding of the human body's structure. Relying on theoretical knowledge and instinct, I could clearly sense the path to exit. I adjusted my position and found the right angle. Just as my mother gave a strong push, I suddenly kicked my legs. The whole world suddenly became clear. The delivering doctor and nurses were all stunned. Gave birth. It's already out, less than half an hour from start to finish. That was so fast. In all my years of delivering babies, this is the first time I've seen a self-delivered baby. I was held in the nurse's arms, struggling to open my still sticky eyes, smiling brightly at my mom, who was drenched in sweat. "Mom, I'm out in this life. I've got your back." Thanks to my mom's record-breaking half-hour smooth delivery, we became famous in the hospital. Countless expectant mothers came to seek advice, surrounding my mother so tightly that not a drop of water could pass through. "Oh, Sister Lynn, how on earth did you do it? Do you have some secret recipe?" My mother held me in her arms and sighed with a hint of humble brag. "I don't know either. Maybe this child just felt sorry for me. I didn't have to push much, she just slipped out on her own." The way everyone looked at me instantly changed. "This child is simply amazing. Look at those bright eyes, so clever, not at all like a newborn baby." Just as I was being surrounded by a group of aunties, the door to the neighboring delivery room finally opened. Auntie Lou was wheeled out, her face deathly pale, as if she had just returned from the brink of death. Her husband followed behind, holding a wrinkled little baby, his face a mix of heartache and lingering fear. That little baby was Soon Wan Wan. I squinted my eyes and looked over. She was wrapped in swaddling clothes, sleeping soundly with her eyes closed. Outside the hospital window, a flock of pigeons cooed as they flew by. Sunlight streamed through the window, casting a soft halo on her little face. The nurse examining her couldn't help but exclaim, "This child is truly blessed with good looks. Look at those eyes and brows. She's sure to grow into a great beauty." I sneered inwardly. Here it comes, the passive aura of the heavens' beloved daughter. After being discharged from the hospital, my mom took me back to my grandmother's house. My grandmother is a retired teacher with a strong personality, and she has always held a grudge against my mom for getting pregnant before marriage, but she genuinely adores me, her little granddaughter. During my postpartum confinement, I took self-discipline to the extreme. I drank milk on a strict schedule and in measured amounts to ensure proper nutrition. When I was awake, I had my grandmother recite Tang and Song dynasty poetry to me or play various types of classical music. My goal was clear. While Su Nuanyuan was still relying on luck and cuteness to get by, I was determined to light up my academic skills tree. Facing me, the child of other people, my mother's mindset gradually began to change. She had already grown disillusioned with academia and was ready to give up entirely, but watching me, a tiny baby, listening to reports or music every day, even crying less than other children, her dormant heart seemed to be stirred by something once again. One night, she held me and whispered softly, "Sweetie, your mom used to be quite impressive too, how about I give it another try?" Hearing that, I excitedly planted a big kiss on her cheek. "That's more like it. This is the mom I want. My daughter and I are both working hard. A family should stick together." My mother's comeback has been going smoothly. Perhaps my birth brought her some good luck as well. The paper she had previously had rejected, after revisions, caught the eye of a court journal, although it was only a domestic one, for her, who had been out of the academic circle for nearly a year. it was undoubtedly a shot in the arm. My mom's fighting spirit was completely ignited. She started taking care of me during the day and writing her paper at night, while my mom was looking up information. I would quietly play by myself. When she got tired from writing, I would babble a few sounds to cheer her on. Soon, I was no longer satisfied with just passively receiving. I began trying to actively express myself. At 3 months old, I built a DNA double helix structure with building blocks. My mom didn't notice at first. It wasn't until one of her junior classmates came to visit and saw the structure I built that his eyes nearly popped out of his head. "Holy crap, senior, your daughter is a prodigy. This structure is built so accurately." My mother looked at that building block model, her eyes filled with shock and ecstasy. From that day on, my toys were no longer ordinary toys, they became atomic models, molecular structures, and complex mechanical parts. Other parents posted on social media about their babies smiling, crawling, or teething. My mom posted on her social media, "Great news, my Weiwei independently built a fullerene C60 carbon molecular model. Help. My 4-month-old baby has developed a strong interest in the Riemann hypothesis. How should I guide them properly?" A bunch of question marks flooded the comments section. "Sister Lon, have you gone crazy from taking care of the baby? Hahaha, this cold joke isn't funny at all. I bet Weiwei's next goal is to handcraft a nuclear reactor." My mom didn't explain either, just replied with a profound air, "You don't understand, the joy of a genius is just that simple and unadorned." Just as my mother and I were immersed in the ocean of academia, Auntie Lou's social media feed had a completely different vibe from ours. "Oh my, I took our Nwan out today and found a gold ring. I wonder who lost it. Nwan is truly my little lucky star." Today, when we went out to buy a lottery ticket, I let her randomly point to a number, and it actually won second prize. Her social media posts are always met with a mix of envy and resentment, sucking in some of Nwan's good luck. Nwan is practically a lucky koi reincarnated. "Sister Lou, take me with you next time you buy a lottery ticket." Soon Nwan and I are like two parallel lines, fiercely competing on our own tracks. She's grinding away at metaphysics, while I'm grinding away at science. Back then, I naively believed that as long as I worked hard enough and became impressive enough, I could crush her luck with sheer ability. It wasn't until my first birthday that I realized I had underestimated the halo of the heaven's favorite daughter. My first birthday, my mom decided to throw a big celebration. She invited classmates, friends, and colleagues, and the venue was set at the university where she worked. The theme of the birthday party was full of Lin Lan's distinctive style, the first academic achievement exhibition of future scientist Shen Wei. My mom took photos of all the models I had built over the past year and turned them into display boards. The guests stared at the complex molecular structure models and profound philosophical reflections, each one utterly stunned. They looked at me as if I were some kind of alien creature. "Lin Lan, are you sure your daughter created all of these?" My mother stood with her hands on her hips, looking proud. "Of course, our Weiwei was born to change the world." Just as my mother was bragging enthusiastically, the door to the banquet hall opened. Aunt Lou walked in, holding Su Nuanyuan in her arms, beaming with a smile. "Oh, Lin Lan, I'm so sorry for coming uninvited. Our Nuanyuan heard it was Weiwei's birthday today and insisted on joining the fun." My mother was taken aback for a moment, but she politely invited them in. Su Nuanyuan was dressed by her mother like a little princess. She wore a pink puffy dress and a small crown on her head. As soon as she entered, she caught everyone's attention. Su Nuanyuan smiled at everyone she met, her big, watery eyes melting hearts. "What a beautiful child. Yes, just like a doll." Aunt Lou listened to everyone's praise, smiling from ear to ear. She held Su Nuanyuan and walked around in front of my academic exhibition. Then, in an exaggerated tone, she said, "Oh, Lin Lan, your Weiwei is really amazing, so young and already knows so much, not like our Nuan, who only knows how to play around foolishly." Though she said this, the disdain in her eyes was impossible to hide. My mom, of course, noticed it too, but she was too immersed in the joy of showing off her daughter to bother with her. Just as everyone finished singing the birthday song and was about to let me blow out the candles, Su Nuanyuan suddenly pointed out the window and shouted in a childish voice, "Birdie." Everyone instinctively turned to look. Outside the window, on the tree, hundreds of magpies had flown in from nowhere, chirping incessantly. "Oh my, 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix. What kind of auspicious omen is this?" Everyone was stunned by this wondrous sight, completely forgetting about me, the little birthday star. Aunt Lou proudly straightened her back and said loudly, "Our Nuan has always been popular with little animals since she was a child. they all come to see our Nuan. Then something even more unbelievable happened. The pot of nearly witched orchid on the windowsill slowly bloomed under the gentle touch of Sun Nuan's small hands. The room was filled with fragrance. Now everyone was boiling with excitement. If the phenomenon of 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix could still be explained as a coincidence, then witheredwood meeting spring completely surpassed the realm of science. The way people looked at Sun Nuan shifted from simple affection to awe and reverence. They gathered around Sun Nuan as if worshipping a celestial maiden descended to earth, and I, the future scientist celebrating my birthday, along with all my academic achievements, were left aside and ignored. My mother's face turned very unpleasant. This was the first time I directly felt the power of the heavens' favored daughter. In the face of such a miracle, everything I had worked so hard to achieve seemed utterly laughable. I watched Sun Nuan being surrounded by the crowd and clenched my small fists. In our first direct confrontation, I lost. The disastrous defeat at the birthday party dealt a huge blow to my mother. She locked herself in the study for an entire day. My mother is angry at this unreasonable world. The scientific genius she painstakingly cultivated actually can't compare to a lucky doll that can summon magpies. For a staunch materialist, this is a heavy blow. I'm a bit worried that my mother might become discouraged and give up again, so I crawled to the study door, built something with building blocks, then raised my little fist and knocked. My mom opened the door and froze when she saw the building blocks on the floor. What I had built was Sisyphus from Greek mythology, pushing a boulder up a mountain. My mom suddenly laughed. She walked over and hugged me, giving me a kiss on the forehead. Mom knows, isn't it just good luck? What's so great about that? We won't compete with her in metaphysics, let's stick to our science. Mom believes that knowledge is the real power. Seeing my mother pull herself together again, I breathed a sigh of relief, but at the same time, I realized a serious problem. Sun Nuan's luck aura is just too overpowered. If I were to confront her head-on, I would likely be crushed to dust just like in my previous life. Since I can't match her good luck, I'll find a way to make her good luck mine. Who benefits the most from Sun Nuan's good fortune? Herself and her family. But there's also a hidden beneficiary, the Gu family. In her previous life, Sun Nuan relied on various coincidences to help the Gu family solve one problem after another, ultimately securing her position. The Gu family was her greatest golden finger. In this life, I will cut off the source of the problem and connect with the Gu family before she does. I want the Gu family to see whether elusive luck is more important or tangible talent is more reliable. The first step of the plan is to find my cheap father, Gu Yanji. Although my mother said she wanted to cut ties with the Gu family, deep down, she never truly let go. I often see her staring blankly at a photograph by herself. In the photo is a handsome man wearing a pair of gold-rimmed glasses, smiling with an air of gentle refinement. That's the cheap father, Gu Yanji. I need an opportunity, a chance that will make my mother take the initiative to contact Gu Yanji. Soon, the opportunity arrived. The university where my mother works is going to host an international academic forum, inviting many top experts from both domestic and international circles. Gu Yanji's name was on the invitation list. My mother agonized over this name for several days. To go or not to go? What should I say when we meet? I decided to give her a hand. That night, while my mom was asleep, I secretly opened her computer and sent an anonymous email to an academic forum she often visited. The content of the email was simple. It contained a few groundbreaking perspectives I had on a recent research topic my mom was working on, and these perspectives happened to align perfectly with Gu Yanji's research direction. I'm absolutely certain that as soon as the forum administrators see this email, it will definitely cause a huge uproar. The next day, my mom woke up to find her phone nearly blown up with calls. Countless calls and emails were asking her if she was the one who sent that anonymous email. My mom was completely baffled. After reading the email, she was completely stunned. The ideas in the email were brilliant, logically rigorous, and perfectly resolved all the bottlenecks she had encountered in her research. It was as if a higher dimensional intellect was guiding her through the maze. Who wrote this? My mother was extremely excited. This level is at least Nobel Prize worthy. The entire academic community was in an uproar because of this email. Countless people were speculating about who this mysterious guide could be, and my mother, as the proposer of this topic, naturally became the center of the storm. Gu Yanji, who was far abroad, also sent an email. His email was very brief, with only one sentence. Lin Lan, long time no see, I heard about the forum incident, and I'd really like to hear your thoughts. See you on Friday. Looking at that email, my mom's eyes instantly welled up with tears. On Friday, my mom dressed me up beautifully and took me along to the appointment. She was a bit nervous, her palms sweating the whole time. I patted her hand and gave her an encouraging look. Mom, don't be afraid, I'm here. The forum venue was filled with big shots. My mom took a deep breath and carried me to the seat with Gu Yenji's name on it. The man looked just like he did in the photo, but he had even more presence in person. He was dressed in a suit, wearing gold-rimmed glasses, exuding an elegant and scholarly demeanor. Upon seeing us, he froze for a moment. His gaze lingered on my face, not shifting away for a long time. My mother felt a bit awkward and cleared her throat, saying, Gu Yenji. It's been a long time. This is my daughter, Wei Wei. Gu Yenji adjusted his glasses. How old is she? 1 year and 2 months. Gu Yenji fell silent. An awkward quiet filled the air. I reached out my small hand and grabbed the pen on Gu Yenji's desk. Then I drew something on the notebook in front of him, a Fibonacci spiral. Gu Yenji's eyes immediately lit up. He looked at me in disbelief, his breathing growing rapid. This, she drew it. My mother was also stunned. She knew I was smart, but she had no idea I had become this clever. I gave Gu Yenji a sweet smile and uttered 2 words in a childish voice, Daddy. Gu Yenji trembled as he reached out his hand, wanting to pat my head, but hesitated and didn't dare to lower it. Absolutely unbelievable. An elderly man with a scholarly air approached, leaning on his cane. My mother bowed respectfully. Hello, Elder Gu. The visitor was none other than the head of the Gu family, my own grandfather, Gu Qingye. Gu Qingye's gaze swept over the 3 of us, a hint of understanding flashing in his eyes. He smiled and said to me, Little one, could you draw that thing you just drew for Grandpa one more time? I nodded and drew another one. I also wrote the formula for the Fibonacci sequence next to it. Gu Qingye's smile froze on his face. The elderly professors around him also gathered, and upon seeing the formula I had written, each of them gasped in astonishment. Am I seeing this correctly? A child just over a year old wrote the Fibonacci sequence. This is no longer a prodigy, this is a monster. I rolled my eyes. The female lead is a fairy descending to the mortal world, so why does she turn into a demon when it comes to me? Pa, how ignorant. Gu Qingye grabbed Gu Yenji's arm, his voice trembling with excitement. Yenji, she is the guide. Gu Yenji also realized it. That email wasn't written by any Nobel laureate. It came from a toddler still babbling, from his own daughter. This realization left Gu Yenji's mind completely blank. He looked at me, his eyes filled with shock, ecstasy, guilt, and an indescribable pride. He reached out, took me from my mother's arms, and held me tightly. I'm sorry. He buried his head in my small shoulder, his voice choked with emotion. Dad, I'm sorry to you and your daughter. I patted his back. It's okay. As long as you can help me resist the protagonist's halo, you're a good dad. My mom and I were taken back to the Gu family. The Gu family's old residence is a quaint and elegant courtyard house. The courtyard is filled with flowers and plants, exuding an air of scholarly refinement everywhere. My arrival caused a huge uproar in the Gu family. Old Master Gu directly regarded me as an auspicious sign for the family's prosperity, holding me in his arms every day and refusing to let go. Our Gu family, 3 generations of researchers, has finally produced a true genius. Come on, Wei Wei, show Grandpa what new ideas you have today. My cheap dad, Gu Yenji, even spoiled me to the heavens. He turned down all his work abroad and wholeheartedly stayed in the country to accompany me. He bought me a whole room full of books, a brief history of time, mathematical principles of natural philosophy. With just one glance from me, he knew exactly which book I wanted to read. He even specially renovated a laboratory for me, filled with all kinds of precision instruments. At just 1.5 years old, I became the little ancestor of the Gu family. For every happy person, there is a sad one. The sudden appearance of an illegitimate daughter in the Gu family brought the greatest joy to the gossip media, and Aunt Lu wasted no time in taking action. She promptly posted a suggestive update. Some people will do anything to marry into wealth, without even considering if they're worthy. Using a child to climb the social ladder is truly disgraceful. A bunch of people chimed in below. Exactly. Exactly. Our Nuanyuan is genuine and well-bred, born with a life of luxury. Sister Lu, don't pay attention to those flashy, shameless people. We support you. My mom was really upset when she saw all of this. I took her phone, typed a line of text, and posted it on Gu Yenji's social media account. Congratulations to my advisor, Ms. Lin Lan, on having her paper, A New Non-Perturbative Definition of Supersymmetry, accepted by the journal Nature. Looking forward to more of your achievements in the future. Your student, Gu Yenji. This paper was the one I had previously published. Nature is the world's most prestigious scientific journal. Publishing a paper in it is, in itself, the highest honor. Not to mention the signature reads, Your student, Gu Yenji, Now, public opinion has completely reversed. Wow, so Shenwei's mom is that amazing, she's Professor Gu's teacher, I knew it. How could someone who gave birth to such a genius daughter be an ordinary person? To those who said she climbed the ladder through her child, does your face hurt? It's clearly a union of two strong individuals, a match made in heaven. Aunt Lu quietly deleted that post. She had calculated everything, but she never expected that my mother was not the trophy wife she imagined. After returning to the Gu family, I had a broader platform to fully showcase my talents. When I was 2 years old, I independently designed a new drone algorithm that doubled the drone's endurance and stability. Old Master Gu held my design drawings, moved to tears, and immediately made a call to the National Space Administration. Old friend, let me tell you, our country has a worthy successor. When I was 2.5 years old, I cracked the Collett's conjecture, a problem that had puzzled the mathematical community for years. Although I only proposed a completely new proof approach, it was enough to shake the entire mathematical world. Countless honors and praises came flooding my way. I became a veritable genius baby. On the other hand, Sun Wan's life wasn't going so well. Her good luck seemed to have hit a bottleneck. She would still occasionally find money, and when buying things, the change would still be rounded down, but these small strokes of luck are nothing compared to the achievements I've made. Aunt Lu's posts have shifted from showing off to expressing anxiety. Warmth has been asking me lately why the Gu family brothers don't come to play with her anymore. It's all because of that Shenwei. How dare a child born out of wedlock take everything that belongs to our Warmth? I looked at these things and gave a cold smile. Steal, I never steal. I'm just taking back what should have been mine all along. I thought the gap between me and Sun Wan would only widen until she completely disappeared from my world, but I never expected that at the age of 5, she would strike back at me in an unexpected and devastating way. That year, the Gu family was entrusted with a national-level key research project called the Pangu Plan. The goal of the plan was to develop a supercomputer capable of simulating the initial state of the Big Bang. This project is personally led by Mr. Gu, with Gu Yenji serving as the chief engineer. As the secret weapon of the Gu family, I am also involved, responsible for the architecture of the core algorithm. The entire Gu family has devoted themselves to this massive project. We stayed in the lab day and night, calculating, deducing, and modeling. However, at the most critical moment of the project, we encountered a huge challenge. When simulating the singularity state, no matter how we adjusted the parameters, the computer would crash due to energy overload. We tried every method but couldn't find the source of the problem. The entire project came to a standstill. Grandpa Gu was so anxious that several more white hairs appeared on his head. Gu Yenji also spent his days with a furrowed brow, unable to eat or sleep. Just as we were at a loss, Aunt Lu brought Sun Wan to our doorstep. Aunt Lu said with a sincere expression, I heard the project has run into trouble. Our Wan has always had a special intuition for these things since she was little. Why not let her give it a try? Grandpa Gu originally wanted to refuse. In his eyes, scientific research is rigorous and sacred, not to be tainted by any mysticism, but looking at the helpless team and the expensive computer, he hesitated. Gu Yenji also fell silent. Reason tells him this is absurd, but the last incident with the guide also made him feel a hint of reverence for this world. In the end, old Master Gu sighed and nodded. Let her give it a try. Sun Wan was taken into the core laboratory. She was wearing a white dress, like a fairy who had accidentally strayed into the mortal world. She looked curiously at the machines with their blinking indicator lights, her eyes filled with innocence and naivety. Sun Wan walked up to the computer simulating the singularity, reached out her small hand, and gently touched the machine's body. Then she turned her head and said to Grandpa Gu, Grandpa, it seems like there's something bad causing trouble inside here. Everyone froze in shock. Something bad? An engineer couldn't help but say, little girl, this is the most precise instrument, how could there possibly be? Before he could finish his sentence, Sun Wan pointed to a corner of the computer and said in a childish voice, right there, it's not feeling well. Everyone looked in the direction she pointed. That was the computer's cooling system. A technician walked over and opened the casing of the cooling system. The next second, he let out a cry of surprise. Oh my God, how could there be a dead mouse here? Everyone was stunned. A dried-up dead mouse was stuck between the blades of the cooling fan. It was this seemingly insignificant foreign object that caused the cooling system's efficiency to drop, leading to the computer's overload and crash. Is the problem solved just like that? Everyone looked at Sun Wan as if she were a monster. If before, her summoning of magpies and reviving withered trees only made people feel amazed, then this time, she accurately identified the fatal flaw hidden inside the precision instrument, a flaw that even the top engineers couldn't find. This has already escalated to a terrifying level. Grandpa Gu's hand trembled slightly. He looked at Sun Wan, his eyes filled with shock and disbelief. I stood at the very back of the crowd, my entire body cold. I lost, once again. I lost to her mysticism, the scientific barrier I built with 5 years of knowledge and effort was easily shattered by a dead mouse. That sense of powerlessness was exactly the same as at the Nobel Prize ceremony in my previous life. Sun Wan solved the problem of the Pangu project, instantly becoming the center of attention. The way the Gu family looked at her had changed, especially old Master Gu. He began frequently inviting Sun Wan to the house, comparing her with me. Although Wei Wei is clever, sometimes she can be too stubborn. Wan has a natural talent for this. In scientific research, besides rigorous logic, we also need a bit of inspiration. My cheap dad started to waver as well. He would bring up some difficult problems and ask both me and Sun Wan. Each time, I would provide detailed analysis and solutions from a scientific perspective, and Sun Wan just tilted her head to think for a moment, then said, "I feel like it should be like this." And her feelings were right every single time. Everything I had painstakingly built up was slowly crumbling. The trajectory of my past life seems to be repeating itself. I can't let this continue any longer. I must find a way to break this deadlock. I locked myself in the laboratory for an entire month. I have combed through all the materials and re-evaluated the entire data of the Pangu project. There is only one purpose. I want to use science to explain Su Nuanyuan's mysticism. Isn't she able to sense the problem? So what exactly is this sensation? Is it electromagnetic waves? Is it infrasound, or is it some kind of unknown energy field? If I can figure out the pattern of this energy, does that mean I could also possess this ability, even control it? This idea is crazy and bold, even somewhat fanciful, but it's my only way out. A month later, I took a report over 100 pages long and found old Master Gu. The title of the report is On the Quantum Entanglement Phenomenon of Extrasensory Perception in the Macroscopic Physical World and Conjectures on its Applications. Grandpa Gu carefully read my report. His expression shifted from initial surprise to later seriousness. Finally, it turned into barely contained excitement. "Madman, you're absolutely insane to even think of that." Old Master Gu slammed the table fiercely. "But our Gu family needs a madman like you." He immediately gathered all the core members of the Pangu project and announced a decision that shocked everyone. He intended to establish a new project team, to be fully led by me, a 5-year-old child. The project's focus would be to research the theory I had proposed. This decision sparked significant controversy within the Gu family, and even throughout the entire scientific research community. Many people thought old man Gu had gone mad, to actually let a baby study something like superpowers. Even my father, Gu Yenji, thought this plan was too risky. "Dad, this is absurd. We are scientists. How can we dabble in such vague and elusive things?" Grandpa Gu simply said calmly. "Then tell me, how do you explain the phenomenon with Su Nuanyuan?" Gu Yenji was left speechless. My project team was established under immense pressure. My first research subject was Su Nuanyuan. I invited Nuan to my private laboratory under the pretext of wanting to play with her. I had her wear sensors and play various games, collecting data such as her brainwaves, heart rate, and galvanic skin response. Sun Wan thought I was genuinely just playing with her. Amid the vast amount of data, I gradually began to uncover some subtle clues. I discovered that whenever Sun Wan's good luck is about to arrive, a very faint wave appears in her brainwaves. The frequency of this wave is astonishingly consistent with a certain band of cosmic background radiation. I have a bold guess. Sun Wan is like an antenna. She can unconsciously receive certain information from the depths of the universe, or rather, information about probabilities. She can foresee which choice will lead to the most favorable outcome. This is not metaphysics, this is physics of a higher dimension. Having identified the key to the problem, the next step was figuring out how to replicate this ability. Based on the data I had collected, I designed a brainwave frequency synchronization amplifier. In theory, this machine could simulate Sun Wan's unique brainwave pattern and amplify it, allowing me to hear the sounds from the universe as well. On the day of the experiment, everyone was on edge. I lay in the experimental pod, putting on the helmet-style amplifier. Old Master Gu and Gu Yenji stood before the control panel, staring at the data on the screen. "Are you ready, Wei Wei?" I took a deep breath and nodded. "Let's begin." The machine starts up. A faint electric current stimulates my brain through the helmet. In an instant, my mind is flooded with countless chaotic incomprehensible pieces of information. It's like thousands of radio stations playing in my head all at once. My head feels like it's about to split open. Wei, hang in there. I grit my teeth, trying to find that specific frequency amidst all the noise, like searching for a tiny needle in a stormy sea. I don't know how much time has passed. Just as I was about to give up, I suddenly heard it. It was a voice, no, not a sound. It was a feeling, a sudden realization. I saw countless intertwined lines leading to the future. Each line represented a possibility, and one of the lines was shimmering with a golden light. That was the optimal solution. I succeeded. I opened my eyes, looked at old Master Gu and my father, who were standing in front of the console with worried expressions, and gave a smile. Dad, Grandpa, we can now restart the Pangu project. 1 year later, the Pangu project was declared a success. The supercomputer we developed perfectly simulated the entire process of the Big Bang, marking a historic step forward for humanity in exploring the origins of the universe. At the celebration banquet, I was invited to the stage as the key contributor to the project. I looked at the approving gaze of old Master Gu in the audience, my mother's proud tears, and my father's face, beaming with a smile that wouldn't fade. I also saw Sun Wan. She and her mother stood in the corner, their expressions complex. She is still that lucky charm, but her good fortune no longer shines as brightly in the face of my scientific advantage. I walked off the stage, approached her, and extended my hand to her. I smiled and said, Wan, thank you. I've established a new laboratory called Future, and I hope you can become my first partner. Let's go explore all the unknown secrets of this world together. Okay. Sun Wan was stunned. She looked at me, her eyes filled with confusion. She didn't understand why I didn't hate her, but instead invited her. Of course, I don't hate her. I even feel a bit grateful to her. It was she who made me realize that this world is far more complex and wondrous than I had imagined. It was she who transformed me from someone who only knew how to bury my head in endless competition into a true explorer, daring to look up at the stars. The best way to defeat her is not to trample her underfoot, but to make her my own, to let her unconscious metaphysical talents contribute to the advancement of science. Sun Wan hesitated for a long time, but in the end, she placed her small hand in my palm. Okay, I smiled. In this life, I have won, not by defeating Sun Wan, but by conquering the version of myself that was once toyed with by fate. I lifted my head, as if seeing the self from my past life standing beneath the Nobel Prize stage, filled with resentment and unwillingness. I want to say to her, effort may not always overcome luck, but when your effort becomes powerful enough to explain luck, or even control it, you become the new deity. After hearing the stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.